Welcome back to another episode of the Paycheck podcast. I am your host, Justice. I used to be Pay, and today we got a very special episode. This is the first ever artist interview, and today we got our guy MKABOVE. He's an artist who I believe is out of the UK, but I'm not going to spoil too much. We're going to get into it, and I want to start off something really quickly just to give the people who have a shorter attention span something to really grab onto early on into the interview. So we're going to do a quick game of like word association. So I'm going to say a word and you give me like 1 to 3 words. It doesn't have to be one word, just 1 to 3 words of what comes to mind when I say that word. All right.
All right, cool.
All right. MKABOVE.
Music, depressed,
Mm,
alternative.
okay. Music.
Yeah.
No, that is the next word. The next word is music.
Oh. The next word. Spiritual, fun, um, connection,
Inspiration.
women, drugs, um, God,
Your style.
um, lazy, put together, timeless.
Go artist.
Ooh, sweatshirt,
Mm,
or Sampha, James Blake, Frank Ocean.
go album.
Fuck. Love is Rock by Sade, or Green Zone 108 by Green Tea Peng. It's fucking nuts.
Mm,
Uh, also Blonde by Frank Ocean is probably my favorite album.
okay. Um, Drake.
Like, pretty fun, pretty fun music.
Ken-
Don't have any strong opinions really either way.
okay. Kendrick.
Incredible, but not very authentic in a lot of ways.
Hmm.
But
Okay.
a genius,
The Future.
beautiful, very bleak,
Legacy.
meaningless.
Hmm. Okay, that's an interesting answer. I like that answer. Okay, so that's just the end of the word association. Now we can get into like the real questions, really get underneath the
That was fun.
surface.
That was fun.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, something to kind of lighten up the mood. How would you describe your music to a listener who's never heard any of your work before?
I think it kind of feels like, when you're at a party or like a rave or a club and like you don't really want to be there, but you're there anyway. And like you don't want to be the person who's a downer, like sulking, so you'll go take part and shit. But you don't truly want to be there. But it's like it's still loud, there's still bass, but it's quiet and intimate in a way, you know.
Okay. Is that something you probably run into a lot in your life, just going out and being like,
Hell yeah.
yeah, I feel
100%.
that for sure.
100%.
Um,
Definitely. Yeah.
So I'll say, what is your goal when you create your music? A lot of people have different things, and obviously the main thing most people would kind of start out with is just money or just kind of blowing up in fame. So maybe even aside that, if that is one of your main goals, what is your goal?
I just think it's so much fun. Like just making songs. I produce my shit, I record it all here. So it's like I have all my hands over it. And I just think there's a feeling you get, that like flow state, that I think a lot of people can say, athletes, chefs, I think even fucking programmers can say it. Um, but like that flow state, I think is like so beautiful. And I also love when people like my music.
Okay.
Like that really does something for me. Like when I hear someone listen to it and they're like both in their head or like really like in tune with it. I think you share that moment. I think it's spiritual. Uh, so I like that.
Okay. So you're the type of person that looks into music more as a art form, more something to express yourself and really to kind of connect with people in a way, rather than it just being like, hey, I'm just trying to make some money and hopefully this goes well.
100%. I mean, I want to get rich too. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Of course.
I want to move out of this house, but I also want to like definitely music is. I think like it's such an eight brain thing if you think about it. It's just noises, but we care about it so much. If you're good enough, you get paid more than anyone else in the world.
Yeah.
And like,
So I'll have to follow that up with, well, the way you talk about music, you can clearly tell that you care a lot about it and that it's something that you really put your heart into and your soul into. So then I'll follow that up with what really inspired you to make music in the first place.
So it's weird because I went to school for engineering. Like I just finished uni like a month ago.
Okay,
Not like
congratulations.
sound engineering, like
Yeah,
um,
I know
but
what you mean.
but like growing up, I wasn't like I was always into music. Like I played piano growing up, and like I used to go to these school talent shows and like rap like shitty songs. Um, but it never was something I really considered. And then when quarantine hit, I was starting uni, and so I had to quarantine in a hotel for 2 weeks before I could um like go to uni and stuff because I was coming from Kenya.
Okay.
And when I got to the hotel, I was like, I'm bored as fuck. I can't even leave my room for 2 weeks. I'm just gonna go on Amazon. I bought a 30 pound mic, and like I got a crack version of FL Studio, and I was just like, fuck, I'm gonna just start making music. And then I was like, this is so much fun,
Yeah.
and I kept doing it, kept doing it. When I started school, I would force all my flatmates to come to my room, listen to anything I could cook up, any demos, and like they did not. I feel bad for them because I was forcing them to listen to some terrible music, but like, we would I did that for like years, and eventually it just became what it became all I thought about,
Mm,
and it just became kind of how I process the world and how I make sense of things.
yeah.
I think if I don't make music for a while, I get a bit,
Hmm.
you know,
Yeah, I feel
yeah,
you. Okay, so you spoke a little bit there about your upbringing, and I don't want to get super personal there, but I just wanted to ask, like, was there anything in particular in your upbringing that made you really want to get into music outside of just like, having fun or whatever? And I know that you mentioned Kenya and you do have a UK accent, so if you could just give us a little bit of just a background. I don't
yeah,
need you to go into specifics, but just tell us a little bit more about, what that was like growing up for you.
for sure. I mean, so I was born in the UK, and then when I was 10, my family moved back to Kenya. And I went to like the U.S. Embassy School in Kenya
Mm.
for like 8 years. So I went to a U.S. high school,
Oh, wow.
um, but in Kenya for like 8 years, and then but I grew up in a very like musical household. Like my sisters are all 90s. I have three sisters, and they're all like 90s, like music, kids. And I kind of grew up in that house where I'm hearing a lot of like Usher playing, a lot of Love Him or Hate Him, a lot of Chris Brown was playing in that house. Like a lot of, and I used to love Michael Jackson as a kid too. So I love performing. Like my whole life, I always loved performing. And like so I was always making like music was always part of my life. And it's always been part of my family's life, I think, which is why I make it a bit deeper than it needs to be. Cause like
I mean,
yeah,
well,
maybe.
that's subjective. It is art at the end of the day. So if you take your art a little bit more serious than, Sexy Red or something, there's nothing wrong with that.
Uh, Sexy Red's hard though. I fuck with Sexy
Nah,
Red.
she is hard. She is hard. I can't
Yeah.
lie. Um, but I'll to kind of switch up the pace a little bit. I want to ask, what is the particular message or emotion that you want to leave people with after they listen to your music?
Mm, I mean, thought about that, think I think I want people to feel like how they're feeling is okay. And I feel like that doesn't make as much sense with the shit that I have out currently, but everything I've been working towards, like I have a project that I've finished basically, that I want to release at some point. That's a lot more the theme around it. I kind of want people to listen and feel kind of understood, but also people to be able to forget themselves and like when you kind of lose yourself in the song,
Yeah.
like when you yeah, when you're not even really thinking anymore or like really conscious of the song, you're not reading lyrics, you're just kind of hearing, like being in that moment.
Yeah.
And if you can just share that moment with me for those 2 minutes or 3 minutes of that song, you don't even really like need to carry it after that. I'm okay with that.
Mm,
But if you just kind of have that moment, like
okay.
that's kind of all I get out of it, I think.
Okay, so you want them to kind of get really immersed into what you're doing. It's kind of like an enclosement, an environment that you want people to kind of get lost in while they're listening to your music, rather than it being like, oh man, that was really cool. Like I like that song. Like just something that's kind of like a moment, something that you can look back on and be like, wow, that was different. Okay.
100%. 100%.
Okay. And so with your recent, you just recently dropped a project this year, Life of the Party, and tell me what that was like going into that. Was that something that you've been working on for a really long time, or was that something that you just kind of came along with and it just kind of happened, or what was that like?
Album happened fully by like chance, and we made it in like 2 weeks.
Wow.
So it was so I had this song I dropped last year called Gelato 33, and then this DJ from Luxembourg named Gravajaz, he heard it and he was like, "This is hard. I want to make a remix to it." And so he hit me up. He was like, "Can I remix your song?" And I didn't even think much about it. I was like, "I mean, yeah, okay, like yeah, sure." And like I heard it, like, this is incredible. Let's make a full project. So then the next year in January, like he was just sending me beats, and it was like he'd send me a beat, and by the end of the day, we'd have a full song. And
Mm.
we would just like, or like I would start working on a beat and send it to him, and he'd add something to it. And so in like 2 weeks, we had like 15, 16 songs. And then I flew out to Luxembourg during like the break in uni. We recorded a bunch of content and shit. I stayed with his family, and that was pretty cool to go out there and see how people live over there and stuff.
Yeah.
And but it was really just like collaboration. It started off as a group. It was supposed to be a joint release initially, um, but eventually it just kind of became my tape. But it was a really that album also was, I think, in a transitional period in my life when I was making it, like coming right out of school, and it was kind of like I've been doing this for 3 years. What do I have to show for it?
Mm.
What do I have to show for it music wise? And everyone tells you not to drop projects, but I was like, no, like I want to drop a project. I want to drop one, and so we did it. And
Okay. Well, I think when I listened to your music, because I did go through your discography and listen to it.
thank you.
So when you make your music, I feel like that it's kind of got like a little bit of like a psychedelic cloud type of feeling and vibe. Speak on like creating that environment and why you particularly make that style of music.
I don't know how much I can say without getting demonetized.
Oh God.
Uh,
Okay. Well.
I
Speak
mean,
in layman. Speak in layman's terms.
yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
we keep it very herbal over here, and like, I've also, I'm super interested in like psychedelic culture, and psychedelics, but also like a lot of like I have a lot of books just over here, over like some who's like Terrence McKenna and like Timothy Leary and shit like that.
Okay.
Like I'm really interested in that realm of psyche and like that lane of human experience. And I think it's so different. Like it's such a distinct feeling. Um and I always like try to channel that, especially after like delving into that. I think there's a line in my music you can see from before all of that and after all of that.
Hmm.
Well, afterwards it even became more about the experience and like the spiritual lane of it. So I think at this point it's almost that whole like psychedelic thing is so wrapped in just my identity. It's like it just kind of in the music it will always just kind of come out.
Okay. So it's like a reflection of kind of where you are personally, where you are, what you're exploring in your own life. And I would say your music, I wouldn't really necessarily call it like, traditional R&B, but it kind of
Yeah, definitely not.
falls into the R&B lane when speaking about, certain relationships or certain things of the sort. And so
Yeah.
I'd like to ask you this because I recently watched a YouTube video of my own where it was somebody speaking about the R&B space in the modern era and how it's gotten a lot more toxic, and it's not, the guys singing in the rain about how much they love their woman and how much they miss her. It's a lot more talking about having different women and cheating and all that stuff. So is that something that you feel like, for you personally, as somebody who makes that more so style of music, is that something you feel is more realistic to what actually is going on in the world today, rather than just being, so infatuated with one woman and it's just, oh my gosh, it's, a love story pretty much?
Yeah, like I don't know, the streets are cold, man. Like it's it's I mean, I feel like for me how I try to just be as honest as possible. So it's just like really a lot of my songs I'm really simping. Like I'm really like I'm not a player in a lot of these. I'm not wait, I think it froze for a sec. Is it good?
Yeah, I'm good on my end.
Oh yeah, it's good on mine now. Yeah, like a lot of I think that relationships in the current world are very there's a lot of superficial relationships. I don't want to speak in absolutes,
Yeah.
but I think there's a lot of superficialness just in the world just because of social media and like expectations and and all of that and people rushing into relationships who shouldn't be. And because of that, I think the culture's kind of become a bit more focused on that negative and on that like it's almost romanticized. Like people want to be in a toxic
Yeah.
relationship. People want to be in it so people want to flex about it so bad.
Yeah,
People post about it like it's people want it so bad, and that shit's not nice. It's not fun.
yeah.
it's
Yeah, no.
it's stressful
Yeah, kind of like
and
the
like
whole Krishan and Blueface or whatever is going on, that
yeah
type of
that's
stuff.
not growth. I can't lie though. If I had like a girl that's down for me as Christian, I'd be praise God for it.
Okay.
But it was so I think that singing of the rain shit I think is over. Although if I found someone who I would want to sing in the rain for, you could see an MKABOVE singing in the rain track. As
Okay.
of now, London is not very nice, man.
Well, speaking of London, how would you say that specific musical culture has influenced you? You know, there's a lot of talks and conversations about where music is originating from and what sounds and stuff like that. So, how much do you feel the London culture musically is reflected throughout your own work?
I mean, a lot of the artists I'm inspired by are from the UK, but they're not really in the underground lane as much. Like, I'm really inspired by James Blake, and I'm really inspired by like Sampha. Um, but I think the London underground scene is incredible. Like, I'm inspired by it all the time too. There's like a I think it's because London's so depressing to be in. Like, there's a kind of darkness to like the music that people make that is that's really cool. That's really like it's an interesting vibe. I don't think apart from a few people, I don't think I think London like UK underground rap is a lot more about the production than anything else than like the lyrics. Apart from like there are a few people that can really rap like Fimi can rap his ass off. Len can rap like crazy too. But the production, that like heavy bass sound, that 808s, I think in a lot of my newer shit that I've been working on and a lot of maybe the newer stuff I've dropped, I've definitely been inspired by that in the way that I make stuff. Because when you go out, that's what you hear, you know.
Mm, okay. So, like, kind of a
I feel like
random.
I rambled a lot, but
No, no, that made
it was
sense. It definitely made sense. But a little bit of a random question. But let's just say like we plop you somewhere else. Let's say you get dropped into Florida, right? Just randomly. I don't know. Would you say that that would have completely changed the type of music do you make? Like, do you think that if you weren't in the UK, your music would be completely different? Like, are you a little bit more of a reflection of what's going on? Or are you still kind of on your own road while being involved with the culture surrounding?
I think I think it can be both. Like, I think I definitely would have some things that are the same. I'm a child of the internet more than anything, honestly. Like, I was really a chronically online child. Like, too much too. I wish my parents took the internet away from me when I was younger. But I was on the internet listening to like Lil B when I was like 8 years old, and like I was um I was listening to Lil Yachty back when he was with Sailing Team or what is that?
Yeah,
What is that thing
yeah,
called?
yeah,
Sail or
yeah.
whatever. Yeah,
Sailing
like
team, yeah, yeah.
yeah, like I was and like I really loved just like the internet. So I think I would have still found those internet bubbles either way, because a lot of the internet bubbles I was in weren't really UK in like based in the UK, and then also being in Kenya, like Kenya is weird because of course there's like the Kenyan culture, but it's so influenced by the outside world.
Mm.
It's so influenced by America. It's so influenced by the UK and by like all these other places. The media we watch, we listen to American music and watch like American shows and listen to British music, and of course we have our music too. But it was like I think either way I was a child of the internet. So if the internet was the same, it would be similar, I think.
Okay. And that is a good point that you bring up. A lot of people, like, we were so regionally based, maybe even just 10 years ago, but with the internet melting together so many different things, you'll hear people, well, I know this probably doesn't mean much for you, but you'll hear people from Cali that sound like they're from Houston, or people from New York who sound like they're from Atlanta. And it's just like,
Slang, like the slang is
yeah, the slang and the sound, everything. It's just like, what is going on here? So
yeah.
I think that's a good point that you raised there. And I also wanted to ask, in terms of your music as a person who's an upcoming artist, but I'm pretty sure you're probably not living off of what you're making from your music right now. What is that like? How is it trying to balance your daily stuff, your work, your family members? Like, what is that like for you at the moment?
Uh, I honestly I try not to think about it too much because like I used to stress about it a lot. Um, because I finished school and with an engineering, and I was like, I don't want to be an engineer. And so it was really a thing of I just need to get a job and just make this music shit work. And it's been I think the only way forward, you have to be unafraid and focused, and you can't afford to even have doubt for a moment. So like I have to stay up late getting home from a shift to work on music, or to or like work around shit for something like this, for example, like between shifts. It's like, but it's worth it because it's necessary and it's good. And I also enjoy it. I think the process is fun. I think the process is like you gotta enjoy it because everyone who gets out of the process is like that was the best part. So I
Yeah.
just try to have fun.
Okay. Yeah, I feel you on that. And also for the people watching this, it is like what, 1:30 in the morning where you are right now?
Yeah, it's 1:30. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So that just goes to show what we're talking about in terms of, work and music balance. So this dude's doing an interview at 1:30 in the morning after a shift. I probably would not be doing that, but hey. So
No, the thing is, like, you know what's crazy? I've been like a real fan for like years.
really.
Yeah, I was following you on TikTok in like first year uni.
Oh, I appreciate that, man. I do. I
Yeah, man.
appreciate that. I've been trying to
It's like,
do this content thing, but I was also going to say, as somebody who is an up and coming artist, is it like hard to sometimes stay on track? Is there ever moments where you get discouraged? Because just speaking off of what I can, speak on in terms of my experience as a content creator, sometimes you do hit rough patches where, your videos aren't doing well, your numbers are a little down from last month, and it doesn't feel like everything's going right. And sometimes that can be a shot to like your drive and your work ethic. Is that ever really a thing that you struggle with as an upcoming artist?
100%. Every day, like every single day. I like compulsively obsess over numbers sometimes. But like I think just detachment is the solution. Cause if I'm stressing over numbers or if I'm indifferent to numbers, those numbers don't care. Like they'll be how they are. So you just kind of need to that indifference to it is, yeah, it's up today, it's up tomorrow, it's all cyclical, it's all temporary, it's not even really real. So it's not worth getting down over. But I've 100% gotten like disappointed in myself or discouraged or been ashamed to tell people. Like when I first started and had like 23 monthly listeners, I'd be ashamed to tell people like that I make music because it's like, who's this guy?
Yeah.
Who's this? It's this SoundCloud rapper.
Yeah, no, I definitely feel you on that. And speaking on like, people looking at your stuff, how has it been with family members or friends or people maybe not even necessarily that are like family and friends that you're really close with, maybe a cousin or something that you haven't talked to in a while and they run into your stuff. How is that like? Cuz again speaking on my experience, sometimes it's a little embarrassing if they don't know previously and then they find it and they're like, "Oh, you do this?" I don't know, but that's just me personally, but let me know what your experience is when it comes to that.
It's I think I'm lucky. Most of my family just don't like care at all. Uh, it's like all Bilky does music, that's it. My mom like really is invested though. She loves the songs, which is a bit weird to me because it's like,
Yeah, I can see how that'd be.
yeah,
Yeah.
but she really likes the music and she roots for me. So, I'm blessed in that sense. And even like my friends, like we don't really like I'll tell them about shit that's going on with music, or I'll play them stuff I'm working on, but we're not hanging out and talking about music. We're just kind of hanging out and doing whatever. So it's my real like day-to-day life, honestly, isn't affected too much about it. But I do get hit up a lot from people who I knew like years ago, and it's like, dude, one time this happened a couple months ago, so I won't drop a name, but this guy I knew in high school, I almost said his name right there. I don't know why. This guy I knew in high school, he like had like I don't know, I guess he kind of lost his mind or something.
Mm.
Like on Instagram, he was like, you know those people who go on like crazy Instagram rants like once.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Like he just kind of he went off on Instagram. And I didn't comment on it, but like I liked the post because I'll support you and your go off. Uh Anyway, so he hits me up like 2 weeks after this. He's like, I don't appreciate your silence on this matter, considering I've been promoting your music. Keep in mind, I was spoken to this nigga for like 2 years, bro. Yeah, for like 2, 3 years, I haven't spoken to him. He's like, I don't appreciate your silence, considering I've been promoting your music. And I'm like, what do you mean promoting my music?
That's insane. No, I get people like that all the time from like school and stuff. They'll be like, "Oh, I didn't know you did that. Oh, that's pretty cool." Like, yeah,
Yeah.
it is. It is what it is, I guess. But again, as somebody who is trying to make it at the moment, like, how do you record your music and where do you record your music? Like, do you have studio time? Do you pay for that? Like, what's that process like at the moment?
I record it right here with this mic. I have a like this. I don't think this actually does anything, but it's like a booth, isolation booth,
Yeah,
whatever.
yeah.
Um, I record into FL Studio and I record on the beat, like on the beat track, because I make the beats.
Okay.
So it's on the stems of the beat. I also record my voice there and I mix
Hmm.
it all as one thing.
Okay.
Um, I usually it usually takes me around like a day to make a song. Um, but a day of like focus.
Yeah.
And like it's I just try to have fun with it. Uh, make a day of it, make an activity. But I think like the fact that I do it this way, it meant that for the first 2 years of me doing this, I couldn't make anything that sounded good at all. And so, I had to. But the good thing is now, I have such a hand over everything. So many people just don't know how beats work, like at all, or what mixing even is, and they have established careers as rappers.
Yeah.
And like, but now like, I can have an idea in my head and just make it, and not have to dance around paying a producer or an engineer or like clearing something or like, you know, it allows me to keep a creative fire in the music, which I think is good. So I think anyone who's trying to make anything should just use what they have. My FL Studio is still cracked to this day. Like, don't don't tell them I have not paid for FL Studio yet.
Oh, so like, let's just say hypothetically, I'm somebody who's also an up and coming artist watching this video. Maybe I'm 3 songs into what I'm doing. What advice, if any, would you have for that person?
Just don't stop. That's it. Like it may sound bad now, it can't forever. Everything is always changing. So just don't ever stop. If no one's listening, it doesn't matter because you don't matter that much. No one does. So just do what you want to do and keep going.
Okay. And I notice right now on Spotify you have like 10,000 monthly listeners, and you have one song in particular. I believe it's the Fashion. That song has around 50,000 monthly listeners, which is or not monthly listeners, but overall streams, I believe, because it just came out
Yeah.
not that long ago. So, what's it like to see one song in particular kind of rise above the other ones? And did you see that song in the beginning when you were creating the project as, okay, this will be the one that gets a little bit more buzz?
We definitely knew that was like the hit. That's why we even dropped it as the first single. But I think it's cool that people really like it. I saw some influencers with like 5 million followers on Instagram using it for reels and stuff.
Wow.
And I was like, that's cool that it's reached them all the
Yeah.
way over there in like Miami or whatever. And like it's no. I think it's not my favorite song that I've made. If I'm being honest with you, I don't think it's my favorite song that I have out either. But it's one that I think it's really easy to enjoy. And so, uh, any listeners, any streams, I'm extremely grateful for. It's got 50,000, so thank God for that.
Yeah. And just like speak a little bit on the process of seeing a song kind of bubble up a little bit more than what you're used to at the moment. Just what does that feel like?
It feels really really good, but also super empty.
Hmm.
Like it feels really like you're getting validation. It's like now you don't have to keep lying to yourself that you're good. You actually kind of can see that people enjoy it. Um, but it's also so empty because there's no number that's satisfied. I think you can probably maybe feel the same. The subscribers, it might be the similar feeling
Yeah.
to where like you'll say when I hit 1,000 monthly listeners, ooh, it's gonna be different then.
Yeah.
And then you get there and it's like you're still the same because you're still just you, and the goalpost just keeps moving. So like when the fashion hit 5K, I was like, oh, that's really cool, but I could get 10K. And then I get 10, I was like, we could get 25, we could get 50, and I like it will hit 100. And when it hits 100, I'm sure I'll be like, we could get 1 million.
Yeah,
And so
definitely.
it's like filling a bucket with a hole in it, but it's still I still do it anyway.
Yeah, no, I definitely feel you on that, especially on the content creation side. You see 20,000 subscribers, you're like, oh, 30, and then I definitely feel where you're coming from with the whole emptiness and the numbers thing. But also, I think I don't know, throwing this at you, I feel like sometimes in your music, do you listen to any Brent Fayez? Just gotta
Yeah,
ask
I
that.
used to be obsessed with Brent music.
Okay, okay, I knew I wasn't tripping because sometimes I'm like,
Very
oh, wait a
inspired.
minute.
Very, very.
Okay.
I was very inspired, especially when I was first starting out. 100%.
Okay, okay, because I was
Yeah,
listening to some of your music, I'm like, that kind of. I feel like that's a little bit of an inspiration point, maybe. But I just wanted to throw that
hundred
out there
percent.
to make sure I
Yeah,
wasn't tripping when
hundred
I was
percent.
listening.
100%. Yeah, yeah, for
Okay,
sure.
um,
Yeah.
and in terms of like the future for your career and what that possibly holds, do you think? Because right now on the internet, there's a big movement overall against labels, and labels have their position, but they also have their cons. We all know this, but it feels like as we get more and more into the future, more and more people are trying to go independent and not even trying to sign in general. Some guys are blowing up and not signing at all. So do you feel like you'll be in a position one day where you're like, I think it's a good move to sign to a label, or is that something that you don't really want any part of?
Well, I mean, at the end of the day, a label is just like a bank, um, and so if you can, if you can afford not to sign, I think don't sign. However, I think there are advantages to signing. Like, you get connections that you maybe wouldn't have had before. You get some level of financial stability to where like where you can put your head at night. And however, you're limited. Your creative choices can be limited. You don't own everything a lot of the time. So I think if you're in a position to where you can give the label more than they can give you, then 100% you should see it. But people get hold when they decide that when the label can give them more than they can give the label. Like when the label has a lot more leverage than you, and then you get you get like messed up by them. So if I was in a position to where I had leverage over a label and I could get a good deal where I could still own things, I don't die by like I'll stay independent forever.
Yeah,
Um, I would prefer though to stay independent, just because I like to do what I want to do.
yeah,
Um, and I will also want to. I don't want too many people getting hands on like what I'm making, especially if I'm not using producers or engineers or studio time. Like, what are you really doing for me?
yeah. No,
Um,
I
but
feel that.
they're necessary. They're necessary for a lot of people.
Yeah, especially because sometimes artists will sign to a guy that's signed to a guy that's signed to, and that just ends up a
Mhm.
whole thing. And then you have your deals where obviously this is the biggest outlier in probably music right now, where there's Drake where he's getting $500 million and he gets pretty much whatever he wants from his label. So it's all give and take. But I think the anti-label movement has kind of like gotten really, really strong online, but at a certain point, it's kind of played itself out to where people are like, yeah, like against the labels, but like we kind of got to be realistic here and understand that they are still a part of the music industry, no matter how good you are, no matter what you need to do. Sometimes it does help a lot to have that label backing you and promoting your stuff and connecting you with this and this and this. So I think that your answer is 100% one that makes a lot of sense, and one that is a good answer in my opinion. But again, still speaking on the future, in 5 years, I'll say this: give me your best case scenario and give me your worst case scenario.
All right. All right. My best case scenario in 5 years. Um, I've gone on tour a couple times, and I have a couple albums out, and ooh, and I'm spending a lot of time in the beach in Kenya. Uh, but music wise, in 5 years, I've toured a couple times. I have a couple albums out, and I have like my ideal career is like I can drop, and there will always be people to listen. It doesn't even have to be a thing of charting or this and that, but there'll be people there, and so enough people to where I can sustain myself and like, of course, help out my family, help out my parents, my sisters. Um, worst case scenario, ooh, worst case scenario, I'm working an engineering job, and I've got a Caesar cut, and and I'm living in like I don't know, actually I'm not gonna talk bad on any area.
Okay. Yeah, no, yeah. You still live in that area. You don't want to be
Yeah.
like around. You go to that city, and then people, yeah. I got you.
Yeah, but I've given up. That's my worst case scenario in 5 years. I've given up. Um, and so yeah,
And
as long as I'm still trying.
okay. And I think that
Yeah.
your answer was interesting because, sometimes when you ask people that, they'll tie numbers to it. They'll say, oh, well, I have this many listeners. I have this platinum album. I have a gold song. I dropped a #1 Billboard hit. A lot of people like to tie numbers into their answer, specific goals that are hard lined, concrete. You can't move them. And I think that your answer was very interesting in the fact that, it wasn't necessarily a ceiling, but it was just a bubble. It was kind of a bubble of where you want to be, a space you want to be in, rather than I have a #5 song on the charts. I went #1 in the UK. I touched America. We did a 30,000 seatings. I kind of like that answer in the sense that you put it in that way.
Thank you.
And
Yeah.
also, I think it's about time to wrap it up. We're almost at closing in on 40 minutes. So I'm gonna give you my top 3 of what I listen to from your music, and just tell me what you think about that. So I think my favorite song that I have of your music, again, I've listened to your discography about 1.5 times. I revisited certain things, not everything, but I would say Rewind is probably my favorite at the moment. I think that The Fashion is second, and then For a Moment is probably my third favorite song. So how does that make you feel when I
You
tell you that?
pick you pick you pick two of my top three. My Rewind and For a Moment are my top three. I think
Really?
those songs are crazy. I
Yeah.
love Rewind. Rewind has like I think 100 streams.
Really?
Yeah,
I
yeah.
didn't even
People don't
check.
know about Rewind at all. Cause like I dropped it like randomly. I didn't do
Okay.
any promo. I just dropped it on a Friday. Didn't do any post release promo. Got like 100 streams.
Really?
Um, but yeah, I love that song. I love Rewind. I love the fashion is so much fun too. We shot a video for that song, but I deleted it because like
Oh.
because because for the video we got like some friends from uni to like be in the music video, and it to me whenever I watched it, I just kept thinking like someone would be like, oh, this guy got some girls from uni on this video.
uh,
I just never I didn't want it up anymore. But that's a good top three. That's a top three of someone who's like listening.
okay.
Cause that's not the top five you see on like Spotify.
Yeah.
When you see the fashion, but you don't see Rewinding For a Moment. And those are also two of the newest songs. Like not the newest, but like they're two of the newest songs that I've made. So it makes me happy that like it's getting better.
Okay. Well, I think we're gonna wrap it up here. My dog he's telling me to wrap it up. I think it's about time for the episode to end. It's actually his birthday today, so everybody in the comment section tell the dog happy birthday. But
Okay.
MKABOVE, I appreciate you for joining me, man. I think this was a really interesting and really in-depth interview, and I appreciate you for showing up and being on the platform, especially at 2 in the morning now, where you are.
Thank you, man. And thank you so much for having me on your platform. on your channel. I've really been like a real fan for like a minute. So it's like, this is pretty cool for me also to be here. So thank you very much for opening it up. Appreciate it.
Yeah, of course, and it's great to hear that you enjoy the content as well. That's pretty cool for me. So, thank you so much for y'all. Make sure y'all leave a like, comment, subscribe, do all that. Make sure y'all go check out MK Above on all the music platforms. I think you're on everything. So y'all go check the man out. Check out his music. But I think that's gonna be the end of the episode. Y'all be safe. Peace.